Hello and welcome to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host Gary Morgan. With me, as always, my good friend Jim Stam. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. We got all these off days, Gary. It feels weird. Like
It's weird. It is.
it's baseball season, right?
It hasn't felt like it. I mean, I think they were off Monday and then they were off Tuesday. They played a doubleheader Wednesday, and boy, if that doubleheader against Detroit didn't just show everybody on social media in the span of one 6-hour stretch that you're insane by and large on either end of the spectrum. I don't know what does. In a 6-hour span, I saw it go from fire everybody to World Series. I mean,
Well,
insane.
that's
Insane.
being a Pirates fan.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Booth from Bridge to Bucktober put out a little tweet, I think from Bill James, or is it Bill James, the baseball guy? You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He put out something about if you're a 500 team, you probably feel angsty just about every day. Everything is kind of coming at you. And then he just kept talking about all the different styles, like a 100-win team. You lose a game, you kind of just lay your head down at night and get up because, you're not going to win them all. And then the teams that are supposed to lose everything, you don't care at all. And I think if anything, that should tell you what you're rooting for. It's a 500-ish team. It really is, and it feels that way because they look like they should be better than they are. We think the talent should be a little better than it is. They should be winning most of their games, half their games, right? It feels like that.
I think that's the big tease this year, right? As a Pirates fan, is the record probably shouldn't be a whole lot better, but just a little bit, feeling like they could have gotten a game or two here or there makes a big difference, as you said,
Right.
4 or 5 games under 500. And I think that's what's really kind of needling this fan base right now is, right? God, we've sat through so much, and then they get so close. And the Giants series really hurt, right? Because
Right.
that was those 2 games there. Granted, the first game, if I want to remind people, is we got a gift too. So, but those 2 games, you flip flop those. Next thing you know, you're sitting at 500. It's a fragile psyche for this fan base. So
this show in particular, we called grades and evals. Okay, so my dad's military, so I always watched him do evals for people, and it's kind of the way that I think about baseball. So we kind of came up with our own rating system, and I mean, I did, but Jim agreed to it, so
it looked good. I was
blame
busy.
him for it.
Yeah.
But if we give you an A on any of the categories we're going to talk about today when we grade this team at the 1/3 poll, if that's a thing, A is perfect. B is going to be good. And if you were to try to upgrade it, it's going to have to be an above average player that gets it done. Okay. If we give you average, like C, you could upgrade it. It's out there. It's probably league average or right around there. That could potentially be an upgrade situation for you. D is below the line. 500 teams rarely come from this rating. And F, unless you're going for a lottery pick, change course. So, I think that's the way we're going to do it. And when we broke it up into all kinds of little categories, and we're going to kind of hit each other with nuggets all day. First, I wanted to say hi to Robert Haglin here. He's good evening. Ryan Lytle, I'm so shocked to see you since the Ramon Foster show is still going on. But thanks for being here. And you were in Chicago. You didn't stick around for Skeens. Tough sledding. Let's see. First category we should get into, Jim. Let's do one before the break, shall we?
All right.
How about we talk about the bullpen? Okay. I'll read off a few facts about the bullpen, and we can give them our ratings and banter about some things that we've seen that we think might need to change here. The ERA, 4.68, 27th in baseball. Innings pitched, 184.2. That's 25th in baseball. So they're not as taxed as I think we've maybe acted.
No, Gary, that's interesting. I would not have guessed that.
There's a lot of those little nuggets I think we're going to find as we keep going through here, right? So walks, 91, 7th in baseball. That's not a good number in this case, I should say.
Yeah.
Ks, 204, 13th in baseball. Better than average, not bad. Whip, 140, that's 28th in baseball, Jim. They're just putting too many guys on base. And home runs, 19 they've given up. Yeah. So not great. The bullpen's been a problem, man. It's been pretty consistent too, outside of the first couple weeks of the season, I would say, when we talked about everything working. I gave him a D. I think this team has too many guys who should be better than this to even give them allowance for a sluggish start. Easily one of the most popular upgrades come deadline time for any team in the first place is a bullpen. I think they can do this even just acquiring some league average arms.
Yeah, and it might be a place where you might be able to make some headway there, right, at the deadline. Now, are you going out and getting like those frontline, pieces? Probably not. But there will be some guys available, especially guys that if you like exactly what they do and you think it fits what your how you like to approach things. I think there'll be a guy or two out there. I mean, is there another Colin Holderman out there that you might be able to take from somebody?
I mean, maybe, but would he be Colin Holderman already? Because
probably not. But Holderman was pretty good as soon as he got here. Not what we're seeing now. Hey, thank God we have Colin Holderman, right?
Sure. He's been unbelievable. It's amazing that his numbers exist in those numbers I just read.
That's what I was just going to say, is like you take him out of there and he's been almost unhittable.
Yeah. It's been pretty bad. And I think Aroldis Chapman, he's either got to figure it out or they're going to have to give him a phantom injury. Seen other teams do it. He probably at this point in his career almost accepts that as a little vacation he gets to take in the middle of the season and still get paid. As jaded as that is.
And I don't know. I don't know that it freaks him out as much as it does everybody else because he's so used to going through these things.
To a degree, I don't think I've ever seen the weird velocity thing with him. I've seen him just lose the handle on his fastball. I haven't seen him play with the up and down of the velocity as much as I'm seeing this year. I mean, he still has 100, 101, 102 even I've seen in his back pocket. But he's coming up there trying to throw 93 and almost look like he's guiding it over the plate, And I don't think it's effective for him. Effectively wild is better than, unaffectedly wild.
Yeah.
Because it's ineffective and he's not hitting the plate even with the guided missiles, right?
Right. It definitely seems like he has taken a little bit off of things just to make sure it's getting over the plate. Hasn't really helped that much. I know he's disregarded the fingernail thing as a nothing thing. I still have to think that that's played a little part in things. I mean, but I think they're just going to have to keep, unless he's looked a tiny bit better in that last outing.
Completely zero leverage situation. Even there, again, I feel like he's playing with the velocity here and there.
Yeah,
there's something to be said for that. If you can hit 100 and you can throw 93 and paint it, okay, that's something that you want to do. He doesn't have paint in his toolbox.
No.
So to me, rear back and throw that puppy as hard as you can. It makes everything else you throw that much more effective. when they don't think it's going to come very often, they don't gear up for it. Why would you? You just let it go when you see it.
I'm almost surprised, and I know we got to get the break here. Let me just say this, and I do want to add something after the break about this bullpen. I'm almost surprised guys swing at anything early in a count with him.
Yeah.
I would make him throw me a strike before I ever thought about swinging at anything.
Especially as advantageous as it is to get on base with the way he can't hold you at first base. You would think that people would be up there hunting what he eventually does.
And as a lefty, it's your best bet anyway, right? Because
Yeah.
if he is over the plate, you're in big trouble.
It must be a good topic because we can't shut up. Let's take our break.
Yeah. Okay.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports. Jim, you had another note you wanted to add in there about the bullpen.
Well, I mean, it's really obviously affected things. I think before the season started, I think they were projected with like the fourth most WAR for pitching bullpens for teams. So, it's really hurt. We know the struggles of the offense. And what that's done at times. But the bullpen hasn't really been good at all for any kind of a stretch other than right at the beginning of the season. And you saw what happened when it was kind of working. So the other thing is this, right? They've had 27 save opportunities and converted 15 of them.
Yeah.
So, it's not hard to point at this and say, geez, if they'd have just been a little bit better, they'd be in better shape.
Ryan Lytle says he's still concerned about Majinski. Me too. Promising rookie last year. I still like the stuff a lot. I like the stuff with Kyle Nicholas too. I'm just not sure they're ready for this. I think they have no choice but to continue to try to use them though. I mean, that's where we're at with arms at this point. And if my conspiracy theory comes true, whenever Perez comes back off the IL, he goes right to the pen and Priester stays in the rotation. So that's my Oliver Stone wish. And I think that would jettison probably Majinski or Nicholas back down to the minors. They're going to have to do something creative to make that bullpen a little more something you can lean on.
Yeah, and Nicholas is one of those guys. It's just obviously you love the velocity. When he is on, he looks pretty good. It's just that he, like some other guys right now, has had trouble finding the plate.
I'm going to say something about Kyle Nicholas in particular, and I hope it resonates with people. I see a crap ton of Clay Holmes in Kyle Nicholas. I would caution everyone to be patient with Kyle Nicholas. I don't think it has to happen up here. I'm not even saying he's fully cooked. He has to potentially develop a little bit more. But the stuff is like that. It's filthy. It is. And when he's really, really got his sinker going, it's filthy. That's a pitch that I think once he nails down, he's that double play guy that you can bring in that's capable of giving you a couple innings, doing that sort of thing, that pitch to contact sinker. You either get that swing over the top or miss. He's the type of guy that I want to keep developing. You need that Jared Hughes type that comes out and just can put out fires. That's what I hope he turns into. As far as, Barucki, because this is part of this conversation too. Mike asks, any word on Barucki? No. I have no idea what's going on with that. I know he's not throwing. I last I heard he was going out to get a second opinion. I didn't hear anything about that second opinion, so I'm assuming he didn't have surgery. But I don't think they've updated that timeline. to be honest, I haven't heard anything about Mike Burrows. I don't, he should be throwing by now. That's where his timeline should have been. For all I know, he's had a setback or he hurt something else, or
It would be nice to get an update on him, wouldn't it?
yeah. But there's options like that I think they can do. I think the way we're looking at this one is kind of grading the categories and kind of thinking about how they can address them most likely via trade, because internally I think we know what the landscape is pretty much. Like catcher's going to improve when Henry's back. Outfield's probably going to improve when Jack's back or they make a deal. That's really what's happening here. I know Gorski's a popular name. We'll touch on that later when we're done grading things. Jim, your turn. What's your first category here, brother?
Let's not lose sight of the fact, David Bednar, we also need him to, he's looked better, still not David Bednar, probably going to need him to step it up as well. That being said, Gary, let's go to something super, super exciting. Or at least we thought it was going to be last year when all this stuff came out about the stolen base.
All right.
Steals, right?
Yeah.
Offensively, the Pirates came out and man, did they look like a team that was just going to take advantage of that, right? It's going to be another way to compete.
It looked like the path to victory early on last year, for sure.
Okay, so I was doing some digging for this show, and it got interesting because the Pirates aren't running at all. And we can sum that up by saying, well, yeah, they've been struggling offensively, so on and so forth. But even with that caveat, that it's just not a part of anything they're really doing. And I'll throw you out some stats here. They are tied for 23rd in the majors in stolen bases. That team that they are tied with are the Cardinals, who you basically have to do carbon dating with them at this point. Because of their age, right? Like,
Yeah.
talk about two teams at different ends of the spectrum as far as some of their age goes. And here's where it really gets interesting. So the Pirates have 29 steals on the year.
Wow.
Okay. So they're 29 out of 35 on the year. So they're stealing, and when they are, they're being fairly successful at it. But here's where it gets bad for the Pirates. The Reds are second in baseball with 85 steals. The Brewers are third in Major League Baseball with 75 steals.
Wow.
The Cubs are 14th in Major League Baseball, and they still have 35 steals on the year. So not only are you not doing it, and you're lagging behind in baseball overall, your own division is lapping you in this area where you should have a little bit more say-so and impact in this area. And that stood out to me for something that's not really thought about a lot in baseball.
Yeah, because they're not a slow baseball team for the most part. Rowdy jokes aside, okay.
Well, he has to get on the steal. We would have seen more steals out of him, Gary, had he just been getting on.
Right. And I saw, I think Ryan Lytle brought up Rowdy already earlier. We will get into him in one of the categories I'm going to bring up. So, yeah, but they're not a slow baseball team. Like Brian Reynolds is fast. He gets a good lead. He knows when to take a good jump. Ji-hwan Bae has proven in the minors that he can steal bases. Up here, he just doesn't even attempt it. It's almost like he has the yips. He gets a nice lead and just he shuts it down a lot. When he does get a jump, boy, he seems to be a victim of excellent throws. I mean, like he just got nabbed in Detroit. It was a great jump. I mean, a really legitimately great jump, and he was flying. Perfect throw. I think it was San Francisco, actually. Perfect throw from Bailey. So
I think they're going to have to force the issue a little bit.
I think
really
they
do.
might too, but the problem is the person that they tend to force the issue with is the one who takes the message the best, and it's always Andrew McCutchen, and he's not the guy that should be trying to steal a lot of bases at this point in his career. He's fast, but you don't need him doing that. Like that's not what you want him. You want that to be part of his game, a small part.
Yeah, I think they just need to pick their spots a little more. Is maybe where this lies. Do you know who leads the Pirates in steals, Gary?
No, I don't.
Jack Sawinski with 5.
That's really surprising because he wasn't getting on a lot.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, we're talking about something we always want to talk about the Pirates. What can they do? What can they do? And we whether it's externally, internally, whatever. All I'm saying is look, you don't have to be Ricky Henderson out there, but boy, I think they should be getting something a little bit more out. Triolo has 4.
See, and the guys that you sit there and you in your head you go like he should be stealing more bases. I'm going. O'Neal Cruz is a guy that I think a lot of us thought could steal a lot of bases. He's clearly timid on the base paths right now, just timid.
Yeah, he has 4, but he has 4, by the way.
And a lot of those have been like those late inning, like almost should be rolled defensive indifferent type stolen bases, or a runner at third, so they weren't going to go ahead and make the throw through to second. So I don't know what I'm seeing, but he's a guy that you thought should be getting a lot of stolen bases. G1 Bay is a guy you think is capable. Michael A. Taylor's a guy who's capable, but he doesn't get on, and he's getting up in age. Triolo, he gets on. He's not blazing fast. He's fast.
Yeah.
Like if you got him running, he's fast, but he's not like the best jump from first base.
Right. And here's another big thing is like Brian Hayes can run a little. We've seen it. He's 15, 20 steal type guy. I think if I remember correctly, he had 0.
He can. And then he just went on a whole diatribe about how like doing little things like diving hurts his back. I mean,
right.
That's a whole other issue. We could have done a whole show on Brian Hayes today.
Yeah. So there's another guy that, but geez, Gary, I mean, like, okay, Hayes has the back. Well, he seems to have the back regardless. Yeah. Cruz, okay. I know he's coming off the injury. I think he's okay. It's just something where it stood out to me. And then when I saw what the division was doing with it, that hurts because
they're going to have to force the issue. And let's go ahead and play right off of that, because one of my categories is controlling the running game.
Yeah.
Because what you just talked about with the division being so good at it, well, the Pirates better be really good at stopping it, right?
Evidently, yeah.
They've faced 48 stolen base attempts this year, and they've only caught 9.
Is it 9? Boy, they must have made some headway there, because for a while it was none.
It's 9. 1 pickoff. That's all they've done to control the running game. And the thing is, they're putting a lot of people on base. And like, I gave them a C here in this category because they started the season. What did you score them?
Yeah.
What did you score them?
That is an
for
F.
The other one. Yeah. Okay.
That's an F.
Yeah. I gave them a C in this one because they started the season with a rookie backstop. They have some young starters. Thing is, the young starters are the ones that control the running game better. Like Paul Skeens and Jared Jones don't give up a lot of stolen bases because their balls are really fast to the plate. Their deliveries are kind of compact, actually, for as big as they are, or as big as Paul Skeens is, and as hard as Jared Jones is trying to throw. He gets through his delivery really quick. And also, they're not putting a lot of guys on base.
Right. And teams are a little bit, you finally get someone on against them. I think you're just hoping to get something going without having to jeopardize getting thrown out too.
Right. And we did see, like, when Jared Jones struggled here in the first game of that doubleheader, they started running on him because, they had opened up a lead. Why not? Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's an area where you're absolutely right. They need to get better at. They're not going to get better with any of the tool sets they have behind catching right now. Henry Davis, he has a great arm, but I don't think that he's going to be so techniqued up by the time he comes back up that he's all of a sudden throwing, 50% of the base stealers out or something. Aroldis Chapman's Aroldis Chapman. The only way that he holds guys on is the occasional pickoff. Which honestly might be a balk too. I don't know if you've seen it. it looks like it.
Honestly, these lefties, I think half the time they just let them go because it's so in that gray area that to me it's almost a little ridiculous.
All right, do you have any that aren't depressing? Because I have a few that aren't depressing.
Let me see. If you've got something that's not depressing, go, because mine's more not depressing, but it's depressing at first but addressable. So go ahead.
All right. I'll go with the starting rotation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Starting rotation has been much better than any of us anticipated. Really. I don't think anybody had the starting rotation being a strength this year, especially with what we were going into it with. But the ERA, they're 12th in baseball. I actually think you're going to be shocked by how low some of these numbers are. 12th in baseball at 369. Really good. WHIP, 19th, 1.20.
It's hard to believe that is a 12 ERA, a 12th in the baseball ERA for starters.
Pitching has dominated early on. It really has. It really has. Average against 244, 13th in baseball. Again, that's pretty low. It really is for starting. So
yeah.
Home runs 45, third in baseball. And on the bad side, they've given up a lot of home runs in the starting rotation. That's actually accounted for the majority of the runs they've given up. Walks 86, that's 8th. Ks 266, 19th in baseball. I was a little shocked they were that low in Ks, right?
Yeah.
But that's because I'm picturing the rotation now, not necessarily what it was all year. Like when we had Gonzalez and Quinn Priester's not really a K pitcher, so they had quite a few rounds. Going to go back to Quinn here real soon. Innings pitched though, this is something I thought was interesting. 315, 5th in baseball. Now that ties directly into what I said about the bullpen not being overtaxed with 184.2, right?
Mm-hmm.
So really it's the home runs. That's really all it is. I could see the Pirates needing another veteran arm like for a theoretical run, but it'd be a really narrow target for me. I mean, they legitimately would have to have somebody above league average as a low watermark for somebody they would acquire. I give them a B in this category. That's where I think the rotation is right now.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at it overall, they are 4th in all of Major League Baseball in quality starts. So it makes sense that you're seeing there's a lot of innings being pitched, thank goodness, by the starting rotation.
Yeah.
So that's a positive. I mean, it absolutely is. And hopefully that can continue. I think there's a decent chance that it could, Gary. I think that part could hold up. Unless Bailey Falter suddenly he's been the gift, right? Yes, we've had obviously Skeens and Jones and whatever, but being able to get a 4th guy that is doing something like he is, it has really kind of put that over the top.
It's been
as opposed to just having 2 or 3 of those guys.
It's undeniably been the best part of the team. It really has. So, in fact, it's why the team should have a sense of urgency about them. What they've actually gotten going in this rotation. So, your next category, sir.
Okay, well, let's go. It's going to piggyback off that. I tried to look at maybe the pitching as a whole, right? Not just starters versus bullpen, whatever. Let's just see how they're doing and faring against the league and so on and so forth.
I like it.
So, okay, here is something that this is the biggest. These are the two biggest issues, and you touched on it a little bit. Everyone's talking about, well, they're not really getting hit all that hard as far as starters and the bullpen especially might have been a little unlucky. But here's the thing. They have given up the second most home runs as an entire pitching staff in the National League.
Right.
Okay, they are 2 off giving up the most, which is San Diego. So they've given up 64 home runs as an entire staff. And the reason, quite simply, Gary, is because they're also 6th in the NL in walks and knocking down top 3 in that category with just another bad night or so. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like, the bottom line is when you are walking guys, guess what you've got to do? You've got to come back into the zone, right? You've got to come back and make sure you're catching bigger parts of the plate because you are walking people. And well, when you do that in this game in today's day and age, and any age really, the home runs are going to follow. So they've just simply, they've got to stop putting so many guys on base. Great, you're not getting hit all that hard. Well, that only lasts so long if you start putting guys on base.
Right.
So,
and I think Jared Jones kind of started to see a little bit of that, in this game versus Detroit. It was one of the first times he's really struggled with control, and those home runs that he gives up just about every game, well, they're not as cute when you're putting guys on base.
Yeah.
So, it just shows what a fine line it is between really, really, really good pitching and really not good pitching.
Right.
They're giving up too many home runs as a starting unit, but they're doing so good at keeping guys off base, it hasn't killed them.
Right. Yeah. Especially you look at Jared Jones, Paul Skeens did it the other day, right? He gave up a solo shot.
Yeah.
Who really cares about the solo shots? I mean,
well, that's like why when we start talking about like ways they could upgrade, like let's say they do think they have to go and get like a veteran, starting rotation option, or maybe even just a veteran bullpen piece or whatever. I think you're really going to want to focus on. We have a lot of swing and miss, but I think they maybe need a little bit more swing and miss, and they need somebody specifically that keeps the ball on the ground all the time. Like, 50% of the time the ball's hit on the ground when contact is made. You need that sort of arm just to clean up the messes that some of these other guys are prone to making. Like if you're going to have a Chapman on your team who's going to give up a couple walks here and there every once in a while, you want to have an emergency you can go to that's going to get you that ground ball.
Sure.
And if nothing else, strike, not a home run.
Right. And that is a good point because like the guys that they do have, like even Luis Ortiz is like when he's pitching well, he does have like a heavy ball, right? And he can get ground ball outs. And but you don't know what you're ever going to get with him. And so can you really bring him in a situation where you're looking to get a ground ball, you need to turn to, or maybe you just can't depend on it enough. So yeah, you might want to go with someone who's just going to pound it into the ground and make guys pound it into the ground when they're swinging. So again, that goes back to identifying a certain type of guy that you really need, that you're really going to be able to deploy in those situations.
Well, that's the cool thing when you get to this point, like you get to start looking for more specific things. You're not just looking for a guy that can help you. You're looking for a guy that can help you improve a specific thing that your team is struggling with. That's why it's cool, like looking through it like this and seeing what's actually not going well. Let's see what Rob has to say here. Like to see another multi-inning guy in the bullpen. Don't know if you need to get one from a trade or if they think Fleming can do it. Yeah, Fleming certainly could come back. I think Martin Perez can slot right in there. Again, conspiracy theory that I'm working with. But that I like that as far as an option. And I mean, I certainly think they could go and acquire somebody like that. Those guys aren't going to break the bank. You're not sending out Bubba Chandler for that. You know, that's a lottery ticket type acquisition. And there's every belief that even this team would go and do something like that. So that's the type of thing I think they need to do. Even like Andrew Chafin, like is a guy that if Detroit falls out of it, that you could maybe go and pluck. He's a good veteran lefty that can come in and get you a strikeout or a ground ball. That's all you need out of him.
Yeah. And he looks like Kenny Powers, so I'm all for that.
He wears that T-shirt that says "failed starter," which I always love. I think. That's
does he?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Hey, let's take another quick break and come back and hit some more, man.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports. Well, you guys like that showed up for this, thank you so much. We had a lot of competition today.
Yeah,
the ex-president's verdict was in like right before we went live, and so I'm sure there were some people watching that, waiting to either eat popcorn or whatever.
Well,
DK was doing the Ramon Foster show live when we started, so yeah, a lot of competition today.
And my verdict on this pitching staff is, Gary, I'm going to give them an overall C. I think that's probably where we're at. I do think there's some room for this to improve just on its own. I do think that. I hate saying that because I think offensively they're going to have to look a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
But on the pitching side of things, I really do think the bullpen can settle down a little bit. I do.
Let's talk about something that I think kind of maybe has rebounded a little bit from where it was like at the beginning of the year. Power. Just power. Okay.
Okay.
Let's go through some cool numbers here. And I did some splits because I think splits are neat. Home runs, 52, 19th in baseball, incredibly league average. Home runs with runners on, 26, 13th in baseball, and exactly half of their home runs. Did you feel that way watching this team play this year?
Say that again, that last part.
Home runs with runners on base, 26 of their 52. That's 13th in baseball. It's exactly half of the home runs they've hit. There's been runners on base. Do you feel that way having watched them this year?
No.
Right. So many of those were Kutch leadoff home runs, dude. Like you think about, it's amazing that that's a stat. Home runs versus left-handed pitching, 19. That's 7th in baseball. That's pretty good. Okay. Home runs versus right-handed pitching, 33. That's 27th in baseball. So what does that tell you?
It tells you what you've been seeing all year from lefties that need to produce power.
Yep. This is where we talk about Rowdy, by the way. So, and doubles, 82, 20th in baseball, pretty average for real, pretty league average. And slugging, 26th in baseball, 359. So pretty sobering numbers. The power versus left-handed pitching has been pretty good. All of this is so counterintuitive to PNC Park. right? It makes no sense whatsoever, but they're not getting any left-handed production. Jack Sawinski and Rowdy Tellez and O'Neal Cruz are the main culprits there, really. O'Neal Cruz has hit some home runs, but O'Neal Cruz has not hit like O'Neal Cruz.
No.
In fact, I think I just saw you post some of his left-handed numbers today. If you want to pull those up and add this into the conversation,
I think we should, because
but
they're sobering.
He and Rowdy Tellez and Jack Sawinski just have not delivered for this team, and they all had to. Brian Reynolds can't be the only lefty power threat. He can't be. That's just not his role. He's going to hit home runs, but he's going to hit them from both sides of the plate. You need somebody that is going to poke home runs up over that Clemente wall, and that's what those guys were supposed to do. Jack will probably come back, and he'll probably contribute this year. That's why they've tried so friggin' hard with Rowdy, but he's just about done. I know everybody's still losing their mind that he's on the roster. The guys that you want to replace him with, I have no faith in. Lamb he's not hitting home runs either. He doesn't address that problem. He's hitting for average down there in AAA. I implore you to watch some games. In fact, tonight on Sportsnet, they're going to be playing the Indians game, so watch it. Watch him hit and really, really come back to me and tell me that you think that's a guy that should be up here. And I'm not saying that they should keep Rowdy because of that. Bye. Just get rid of him right now for me. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just Lamb is not the guy I'd bring up. Gorski, look at his strikeout numbers. Please look at his strikeout numbers. As bad as it is right now, when you bring that up to the majors, you can almost guarantee it's going to get worse. It always does. Look at how good Nick Gonzalez got his two. And he came up and he paid the major league price. And now he's back down to around 28-30% where he's going to settle. That's fine. What we worried about was when he was in the minors with 37%, bringing that up. Well, Gorski's up there. And he's not drawing walks.
Yeah,
I mean,
which solves nothing, right? I mean, from what we are specifically talking about. But yeah, okay, let me bring up these O'Neal Cruz numbers because it's funny because we watch all these games and we seem to latch onto it with some guys, and then other guys we maybe don't hit it as hard as maybe we should. It's maybe because we believe that it'll get better or that it's just a matter of time. And sometimes that is true, but it does pay sometimes just to go and look at it in its totality. So that's what I was doing today with O'Neal Cruz. And I'm going to give you his numbers for this year against left-handed pitching, and then I'm going to give you his numbers so far since he's been in the majors. So this year against left-handed pitching, O'Neal Cruz is 6 for 57 for 105 average. He has 23 Ks, 3 walks. He's slugging 211 versus lefties, and his OPS is 361. He has 2 extra base hits against left-handed pitching this year. Now, the funny thing is, Gary, from the right, 304 average, 515 slugging, 875 OPS. If he was doing that or somewhere, if that was his overall numbers, we would all be happy as pigs in mud right now.
Right.
But it's so rough against left-handed pitching. And then, do you want to make a comment about that before I get to the other stuff with him?
Yeah, there's no platoon for him. And you have to fight through this year, I think, and have him face lefties, because unless you're going to shatter my remembrance, he's been better than this against lefties. Go ahead.
Okay, so here's his career numbers versus left-handed pitching in 167 at-bats. He is hitting 150 with a 490 OPS, and he has 86 Ks and 182 plate appearances.
Okay.
It's not good.
Well, a starting shortstop probably can't have splits like that. So while there's a lot of concerns about his defense, that has more of a chance of getting him moved to the outfield or somewhere else than the way he plays defense, because nobody's stepped up to take that position or even looks like a viable alternative at this point. Not yet.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're ever going to move him, it's more that he's proving out to be a platoon player than anything. I think it's worth fighting for. I think it is with Jack too at this point, but I think he's probably never going to be a guy that's going to take a sweeping slider lefty anywhere.
No, at this point, I think what you're hoping for out of him is that he just provides anything from the left-hand side, and then right-handed, that against a righty, then he's making up for it, right? Just don't be unplayable against a lefty, even if he's hitting 200.
Well, not to hit the rewind button too, but we talked about the importance of protecting him in the lineup a lot last week. I think we need to make sure that we hammer that again. Brian Hayes is not the answer there. It's got to be Nick Gonzalez the way he's swinging the bat right now. He's the most dangerous right-handed hitter they have. That's where he's got to go. You can't play him every day like that against righties and lefties with those kind of splits and not protect that bat.
I agree. And I think the thing is too with Cruz, going back to what you said, is I think I would just play him and hope that he turns it around. I don't know. I mean, Gary, he'll be 26 at the end of this year in October.
I think you have to play him. I honestly don't think there's a choice to be had here. There is no shortstop option. You have Peguero, but Peguero really he's doing good in AAA, but I don't think he's done enough to feel like he's not going to revert to a 240 type hitter in the majors. I think you need him to be more of an average guy, and he certainly needs to show a little bit more pop. I'm not seeing it. Victory Field's a hard place to hit home runs, but for a right-handed bat, no harder than PNC. So he needs to provide some more power there for me to feel like it's time for him to come up. Shortstop, like it or not, requires power in today's game. It's, it used to be corners. Now it's shortstop. You got to have something like that. It's almost like having a catcher that can hit, right?
Isn't it funny how that changed from when we grew up?
Yeah.
You were totally fine with Jay Bell and Omar Vizquel. Those were actually considered decent, offensive shortstops.
Sure.
Yeah,
Jack Wilson, Ozzie Smith.
Yep.
It's crazy how it's changed. Let's talk about fielding a little bit, because that touches on Cruz too. I looked at fielding because the Pirates right now, they have Hayes, Taylor, Williams, and Triolo are all supposed to be elite gloves, right? 3 of them play a lot. If you're going to carry defense first guys, you should probably rate higher than league average in at least a few defensive categories, right?
You would think.
So fielding percentage, they're 20th in baseball. Run total, it's total number of fielding runs plus or minus based on the average in Major League Baseball. They're -3. Defensive runs saved, the average is 5. That's what they are. Exactly league average. You would think that would be a little bit better when you're trotting Michael Taylor out there in center field, giving nothing with the bat day after day. Brian Hayes when he's not saying, ow, my back. Jared Triolo, glove first guy, not hitting. Alika Williams is getting at bats. Not many. But these are glove first guys, right? There's a stat called R good. It's basically good plays and missed plays, the average. They're -2 there. Tied for 7th in errors with 34. The worst two teams have 40. So they're not far from like being worse than the league for errors.
Yeah.
I gave them a D in fielding because they supposedly have prepared for it. In fact, they built their roster to feature it. And it's not there. It's just not been there. And you're not really if you're not going to get that, if you're not going to get elite defense, you better get something offensively, and we're not getting it. You're not getting anything from Michael A. Taylor anymore. Brian Hayes, if he's not going to turn on the ball, he's a slap hitter to the right field. That's okay. If he's a second baseman, maybe. But
Sure.
That's certainly not. And he's making errors and just missing balls, which is just not Brian Hayes.
Yeah, it's been a rough 2 months for Hayes. I don't know how else to put it. He maybe had like a week there where it looked like it was turning around offensively for him, and then before you know it, he was on the DL. He had made some, or IL. He had made some pretty uncharacteristic errors, and he just wasn't turning on the ball. I think, Gary, the interesting thing is, and this was my last topic too, was defense, right? Because what I look at with the Pirates is what are the things you can do to help yourself? Like we talk about the fundamental side of things, and whether that's playing good defense, stealing bases, just not giving free passes, right? How many things are we talking about that are more like self-inflicted on their part? It's not necessarily what anybody else is doing. If you're not throwing strikes, you're walking guys. If you can't field the ball, you're putting guys on base, So those are the things that I tried to focus on. You want to know the 4 best teams in baseball, fielding wise, that have made between 20 errors and 22 errors?
Yeah.
Number 1, the Braves, as if they need it. Number 2, the Twins. Number 3, the Royals.
Yeah.
Number 4, the Dodgers.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
You know what I'm saying, though, as far as they're all winning baseball games.
Sure.
They're all winning baseball games. They're already pretty good, and they're not beating themselves.
Yeah. I mean, even Jared Jones yesterday, he wasn't sharp. But he certainly got no help from the defense, did he?
Mm-mm.
Like it didn't look like. I mean, after a while, you kind of feel like nobody has your back, right? You don't get runs scored for you. Nobody's like picking up the baseball when it's hit to them,
or tagging someone and holding on to the ball helps even.
Yeah, I fully suggest that the Pirates go full on TJ Watt and just start swatting balls out of gloves.
How many times are we going to see that this year?
I do it on purpose. It's no dumber than their little stand-up walking into second base to break up double play trick that they think is revolutionary. I mean, how many times has that gotten brought up like nobody's ever thunk of it before? You basically are sending people that are willing to have balls hit their head. That's all there is to it. And if that's how you want to deploy Rowdy Tellez, I think there's a whole fan base that would agree. That's a great way to deploy him. But I don't know, man. Like, we talk about Rowdy Tellez being the biggest problem. What he's not providing is the biggest problem. Offensively, anyway. Left-handed power. Looking through this whole thing, that was my major takeaway.
Yeah. All he needed to do, Gary, was do one thing, and that was hit some home runs. That's it.
Yep. That said, I think you are going to see him get a little run of playing time here. I do. I think you're going to get him in a few games against right-handed pitching here. And if only because the GM has twice now had his back and the coach has refused to play him. And at some point, the thumb is going to get pushed on the back of the head a little bit, and they're going to force him into a few games, and then I think they'll make a decision.
They're going to they've let Derek Shelton play manager long enough.
I think so. I think we'll see him get a few starts against righties, and as frustrating as it is, at this point, you have to, because you look like a moron for holding him for 2 weeks if you weren't fixing him in the background.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to push him out for like 2 or 3 games so that you can claim all that fixing didn't fix him or it didn't take, and then you can do it. So I would imagine that's what they're going to end up doing over the next few days here.
Let me finish with one good thing, one bad thing about this fielding. The Cruz boys, they lead the majors 10 errors apiece. So maybe it's not as bad as it looks for the Pirates in that sense that O'Neal Cruz does have 10 of their 34 errors this year.
His defense has not even been the worst thing about him. I think the worst thing about him has been just the lack of production against.
We wouldn't even talk about it. We wouldn't even be talking about it.
That said, it is really starting to smell like they're going to need to have a real answer at shortstop. You can't just go in pretending that kind of defense is going to win you in playoff games. It's not. You can't have a bat there that you would normally not want to field in a big game. Well, I think they're going to have to do something.
Now we're talking about 2 things with O'Neal Cruz, right? Because, okay, all of a sudden, lefty stuff really becoming an issue, hitting lefties. And then all of a sudden, what are you putting Alika Williams in the 8th inning of a game because of O'Neal Cruz? So,
they haven't so far, but yeah.
These are the type of things, and everybody knows what O'Neal Cruz we were hoping he would be. These are not good conversations to be having about him. I will end it on a positive note, and Brian Reynolds leads all outfielders in assists this year with 6.
He's been pretty good, yeah.
He made that one bad play really costly in the game for an error, allowed the runner to get the second, which cost him the game eventually. But otherwise, he went all off season trying to improve his arm strength, trying to make better throws. He has done that. Yes, does he have all this range? No, but I will give him credit for that. It was the one positive that I did pull out of all of that from looking at the defense. Overall,
I'm excited to get Jason DeLay back. He can throw guys out.
Hey, Jason DeLay, it's a shame, actually. He got hurt when he did. But,
I mean, Joey Bart's been pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I've always liked Jason DeLay. He's always the guy that, at least for me, is somebody that never embarrasses himself, always puts the bat on the ball type guy. So
I am all for, I know I talked a lot about Gorski. I like him. I do. His power potential is crazy. I have a distinct feeling that he's going to strike out like Joey Gallo does. And hey, Joey Gallo's had a long career. Maybe Gorski will too. Maybe one year he puts it all together and gets himself paid like Joey Gallo did.
Yeah.
But he's also a guy that I guess I don't see a roster spot for unless you're moving on from Michael A. Taylor, because that's really where he would play. Center field, right-hander. You're not going to put him at first base. He's not better than Connor Joe. The sun won't rise on a day when that is the case. So I don't really know what you do with them. And you don't want to call up a kid like that for a chance and then just sit him on the bench. You want to play him. Like you don't want to bring up a kid to do that. Jake Lamb, okay, you want to bring him up and have him rot on the bench. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
he may be better than Rowdy Tellez. All I can say is like he's not going to hit as many home runs as a right Rowdy Tellez would. That's why they hold out hope, because Jake Lamb's not an answer for that either.
No. And Gary, you mentioned Michael Taylor. I'm really starting to wonder if maybe look, I know he's a nice little center fielder, but at some point I might just give Bay a run out there.
I think that's a brilliant idea. I think play him against righties and lefties.
Yeah,
and let him play.
I mean, if Michael Taylor it can't hit at all, I don't know how much you're gaining. I think maybe with Bay, give him a little bit of a long leash and just tell him, go out and play.
He certainly isn't embarrassing himself in the outfield. He's made some good plays. I've seen him break the wrong way a couple times on atom balls, which I think he's always kind of struggled with to a degree, but he's fast enough to make up for it. He basically just makes what should be routine look entertaining. So, but I agree with you. I think I would play him a lot more. And if Michael Taylor figures it out, great. If nothing else, I don't have a problem with having a defense first outfielder on my bench. That's okay with me. And Bay's not going to play every day, and you need an outfielder. Why not? He can be on the team and getting paid what he's getting paid and sit on the bench and do nothing but play great defense when they put him in. I have no problem with that at all. So that's not even a bad signing to me. Let Bay try to take it. Why not? He's never had the struggles against lefties that they play him like. They act like he needs to avoid them, and he hits them. So
and that's why I'm not afraid to just give him, some leash here and see what happens. Talk about the defense overall. I would put them somewhere in the D+ category. I really think, if you can't, the Pirates, if anything, should be a sound defensive ball club to make up for some of this other things that they know that they're deficient in, and that's been disappointing. They've taken a step back from last year, even defensively.
And the thing is they need a left-handed stick so bad that I don't think they can afford to go out and get a defensive specialist. I think they have enough of those, and they just need to play better. Fundamentally, they need to play better. They need to make better decisions.
Well, and I think that was what was frustrating in that doubleheader, right? Jared Jones, they probably cost him 3 runs. Then they start the second game out. Something happened where it probably cost Paul Skeens a run. It's just, those are the things that, my goodness, you can't be beating yourself at this point. And they've been doing too much of that.
I totally agree.
Whether it's defensively or in their bullpen situation. So
let's see. Todd wants to know what we think about bringing Josh Bell by trade. Not sure if you mentioned this earlier. He would be an upgrade over what they have at first base. I can say that. If they're willing to eat his contract, I would take him over what they have, and I would use Connor Joe in the outfield a lot more than I am, and until Joe cools off. I'd do it. I wouldn't give up much for him. I don't have faith in him at all. I think he can run into some balls, but I think he goes into deep, dark slumps, not unlike Jack Sawinski at times.
Yeah.
And when he does, he's not only unproductive, he actually hurts your team because he just starts driving the ball into the ground. And where they have to put him in the lineup, it hurts. So I guess what I don't want is to act like there's a real savior out there, because I don't think there is. And I don't think there's a better acquisition than just letting Connor Joe man first base.
I agree. I'm looking at Josh Bell. 689 OPS. Yes, that's miles better than Rowdy, but then again, who isn't?
That said, I did just say they need left-handed power, and he is certainly that.
Yeah,
So,
but he's not exactly setting the world on fire. So, and like you mentioned, the streakiness with him is the thing. It's like, if anything, you're looking for somebody that's going to maybe like provide something a little steadier than that, because you don't know what you're going to get.
Here's an interesting one. Ted wants to know what we think about Vlad. Everybody loves Vlad.
I like him.
Vlad's not hitting home runs this year. Vlad's right-handed. And Vlad's going to cost a lot.
A lot.
For like next to no team control. So I personally am scared of that move, because I think they might give up something very valuable for a guy that's going to turn around and leave. That said, the way he's playing this year, I'm not 100% sure he solves your problem. Like, they really, really need power, and he's not providing it this year. There's something off with his stroke for him to only have, I think it's 3 or 4 right now.
He has 5 now.
Okay.
But
So
still,
that's not a lot for Vladimir Guerrero. I mean, like, he hasn't been right in a minute, so I'm not sure. To be honest. I certainly can't sit here and tell you that Vlad Guerrero on your team wouldn't be better than what they have.
yeah, you would hope that maybe there's, and maybe we'll have to do a little something on this. Like, maybe who is that one guy out there that you would be willing to make that one move for if you thought it was really going to address things?
Well, like the one guy I suggested, the Rockies just came out and said they're absolutely not trading Ryan McMahon. I thought Ryan McMahon would really have been a nice answer here, especially with the Hayes back problems, because he can play third base so well too, and hit. And from the left side, that's pop and average. And that's my dream, to get Ryan McMahon. I think that would be a great acquisition. But it would cost a lot, I'm sure. He's under contract for a while, very affordably, mind you. So they have no incentive to trade him, rightfully so. And I shouldn't want to screw Clint Hurdle that bad anyway. He probably enjoys working with him. So
yeah, that's true. Clint still has some work to do out there.
Yeah. Well, hey man, that was fun. I'm glad we kind of like took a light baseball week and did something like this, a little bit different for us.
And just, it's one of those things where, the little things still matter. And I think that we've seen that, Gary, just in this show today, which is, yes, everybody's concentrating on a certain player and not performing or whatever, but collectively, they just need to quit stubbing their own toe when you're
and
this
they need
close.
Guys, expected performers to provide expected performances.
Of course. Yeah.
So, and that's the case for every team in the league. I mean, every team in the league has guys that don't add up or don't deliver what they're supposed to do. That's part of the game. That's why you don't just look at a team and go, "Oh, their payroll's this; they're going to be awesome." They still got to play together, right? So. I mean, I think there's.
It wouldn't hurt for someone to go on an absolute heater too. Like, I mean, can Brian Reynolds get hot for 30 days? Boy, that would really help. Can O'Neal Cruz do that? Like, we're not seeing anybody do that. Just one guy, even just get on a hot streak, man.
Absolutely. So. Hey, good stuff though, Jim. This was fun.
Yeah,
we'll do it again next week. Hopefully the Pirates will play more than like 3 or 4 times in that next week. But
that would
good
be
stuff.
Nice.
All right, let's toss it off to our little buddy.
Let's go, Bucks!
Yeah, buddy. All right, see you, everyone.